Everything's on?
We're rolling.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cristal Sabbagh. I'm super excited to have this talk with Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Gaede, and one of the founding fathers of the lovely establishment that we refer to as Elastic.
Really special place, and I have some questions.
Yes,
I'm going to
excited
start.
to hear what these
We're going to bounce
questions are.
back and forth. But my first question is, what inspired you to be a part of the formation of Elastic Arts? It's a two-parter. And did you think Chicago was lacking in particular programming?
So first part, the inspiration really came from starting at a conversation separately that happened with Sam and I, and then Michael and I. But the topic of the conversation was the same thing, which really was having a space of our own to put our own performances on and present our own work. That was really the impetus, the entire inspiration for it. So to follow up your Chicago question, I was actually freshly off the potato boat here from St. Louis. So I wouldn't have known Chicago from Shinola at the time. So, that in terms of the impact that we've had in the city from a programming standpoint, I mean, that came much, much later. That was certainly, I would say, a big piece of the current generation of leadership that we have at the organization that has really sort of led the shape and the charge on that, transitioning from some of the old guard. But yes,
Right,
we can get
because
into that.
At least around that time, there's Double Door, there's Empty Bottle, there's plenty of places where there was daily, or maybe not every day, but plenty of music acts going on. But I don't know about improvisation and all of that, if that was really taking place in those places.
It wasn't as far out. I mean, you had the Hungry Brain. They were kind of going pretty far out there at the time. But I mean, the short of that is when Rempus came into the fold in the early days, when he joined on, that was really when we started to have more of the avant-garde jazz players from different various circles start to walk through the door. And again, obviously, most notably, Dave launching the Thursday Night Jazz series, which evolved into the behemoth that it is now. So, and to your point, that is where a lot of the four corners of the globe, if you will, players have come over and graced us with their performances. So, but that was basically born out of Dave's efforts in the early days of the Thursday Night Jazz series.
And how early again?
Ooh. Okay, so if S Corp happened in '98, this would have been probably just around prior to that poster showing up, which is '03. So I'm going to say around probably '02.
Wow.
The early days of '02.
Wow.
Yeah, and I could be getting this wrong, but I do remember, again, that poster, I think, was one of the earliest full renditions of, Dave's full vision for what could be the jazz festival that was branded Elastic. So, but
nice.
Again, that was after having at least a year, possibly a year and a half of regular Thursday night performances that were, sharpened the blade and got things down to a real nice rhythm.
Wow. Nice. Okay, second question for you. Since Elastic Arts, it has a lot of modular capabilities in terms of now you can live stream, you've got Twitch, now we have, the cleat system for sound artists, and there's also Beyond the Walls with Culture Coach and doing things, collaborating with other organizations. So who would you like to see Elastic collaborate with?
I would say, continuing the mission, which it seems like that's what's been happening, offering the space up to underexposed artists, I think that that's always been the big thing. But I'll tell you this: I personally think I'm going to come back in here because, to your point, I mean, there was no Twitch when we started this.
Right.
There was
Right.
no cleat. There was none of these things. There was no money either. There really wasn't. All of these things came into fruition now. So, like, as for what can be possible, heck, I want to get my band in here. Like, the ability to be able to do all the streaming and all the, current updated capabilities, post-pandemic, if you will. I mean, for one, I think I'm going to talk to the boys and see if we can get the band in here. So
Yes.
we'll see about that. But, I mean, just keep up the work as it always has been, right? Exposing all this great technology and opportunity to artists that don't have a place to expose their work to an audience that
Right.
may enjoy it. So I think that's hopefully what I'd like to see.
That's awesome. That's awesome because it's changed my life in so many ways. I met Dan back in, oh my gosh, because we were in grad school together at Columbia. So I met him like towards the end of 2003, but it was like, I think around 2004 when he introduced me to Elastic when it was at the church, 2020.
West Cortland, or I should say it that way. Yeah.
Right, but sometimes we would have our performances there. And, but yeah, Dan was always like so gracious from jump and like, yeah, we can have dance, we can have, there was art on the walls even at the, when y'all moved to the space above the Friendship restaurant, the Chinese restaurant.
Yep.
I remember there being art on the walls and different types of programming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that was
like forward thinking.
Well, maybe to sort of go back to your question about the programming, right? We never used that word in the early days, right? It was just doing what we do. But that was born out of the idea of the name itself, Elastic, right? It's elastic. It can be many things. It can stretch here and there.
Right.
That was the multidisciplinary idea that it was all born out of. So, I think that, that's still just illustrates that hopefully it's maintained its trueness to its name. But that was really what it was. Oh gosh, you mentioned art on the walls. I'm thinking of we had to try to soundproof the church back then, and we had to stuff the windows with all this plywood and insulation and build these big sliding plywood doors to shut it down.
Right.
Tried all this work to try to keep the noise down, and it still wasn't enough. Old Garclavs for the neighbor that was next door gave us enough fits that it ended up costing us. It ended up costing us to move. Which, but as I said, there were 5 phases of Elastic, or locations, or eras, I would say. But yes.
Dang. And I'm like, I'm just privy to 3. I'm just privy to the 3.
See me after class for questions.
Right. And, kind of like, since you've been talking about where it was, my last question for you is, where do you see Elastic Arts in 10 years in terms of change and growth? Because you've seen, from the very beginning, it's in your buddy's like house, and now with lots of modular capabilities and things and able to stretch. But where do you see it in the next 10 years?
Wow. In a perfect world, what would be awesome, and again, not that I can say that I've been as connected to the org as I was in my younger years, of course.
Sure.
Not as active as I used to be. But I would love to see the Elastic brand, like that E on the door over there, expand into another city. Atlanta, LA, maybe even New York, maybe someplace unexpected, right?
Right.
And who knows, maybe somewhere on the other, across the pond, because we've been able to, we have a lot of artists that have reached far and wide across the earth. So Yeah, that might be something really cool to see, would be an Elastic pop up in another city within the next 10 years, which again, given
like
what
that.
we now know is possible.
Oh, right.
Because that's been the biggest lesson for me, has been learning that even the grandest of dreams can be achieved. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would say, then why not? Why couldn't it be in London, right?
Right.
Why couldn't we expand to another city?
France,
So, yeah,
Mexico,
exactly.
Germany. Like, Dave has brought many musicians from, all parts
So many
of the
different
globe.
places. So many different places. Where, dare I say, art could even be maybe even more appreciated than it is here in the States. But yeah, I think that would be a pretty killer 10-year reach goal to have. Even,
I like that.
5-7 year plan.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
But yeah, so I know we're probably over time. But you'll give me some good edits. I have a question for you.
You have a question for me? Let me take my glasses
I have a
off.
question for you.
Yes.
So, being that you have been involved since the since the years, which is very cool, what has been the most valuable thing that Elastic has been able to give you as an artist, a professional, a person, whatever, what have you?
I think one of the things that I really have enjoyed about Elastic has been, the support for ideas, and maybe not necessarily like just ideas that are outside of the box, but just like, hey, yeah, we want to help, we want to support. And, Dan Schwartzlos, he totally welcomed me when I had an idea to do, Freedom from Freedom 2 back in 2019. And it was like, yeah, I want to have like, a lot of improvising dancers, musicians, where it's like a night of chance performances where you don't know who you're going to perform with, and audience members pick the groups. But after the first one, and there was a lot of people and there was a lot of excitement,
I heard it's really exploded and like turned into a really cool thing.
But you'd never know. Like, I don't trust, like, oh, so-and-so say they're going to come, blah, blah, blah. Like, it could be like a room of 5 people. But it wasn't that. And when they were like, let's make this a series. And so that's right. That's one of the things that I really love about them. And there's been so many other series, really beautiful original ideas that have happened with a lot of curators here. And it's like they're given a lot of like really valuable support, not just with like, oh yeah, we can produce, but we can help promote, we can help kind of continue a really good foundation, and having this like really interesting space where it can be completely changed. You don't have to have like the chairs set up like this. You don't have to have the lighting like this. You now have capabilities through Twitch and through recently with the cleat. There's just so many things that are possible. Installation artwork, having food in the space. Yeah, so it's really exciting, and for them to be just like, what are your ideas?
What's your vision?
What is your vision?
Right?
We will help you. We will help ground that.
Well,
that's been amazing.
I guess because that was the idea that started it all.
Yeah.
Right? That was the principle that started it all. So I'm pleased to hear that it sounds like the dream is still alive.
Right, and not just for me, but like other people that I know that curate here as well. So.
Very cool. That's good enough for me, producer.
Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah. And look, I can give you more if you want. I can keep
If you want a little more, that's what he's saying is he can do a little more. It's
It's like 15. If you want to do like another 5, we can have an extra little bit.
Little buffer. Cool.
If you want, but if you're not, I think that was perfect.
Hey,
Ask me another. I got nowhere to be.
If you have another, If you have another question for Crystal, maybe we should.
Yeah, because
Fair
I'm
enough.
like,
Fair enough.
I feel like,
That was the big one that I wanted to, and you already touched on it, because now that I remember, it was Dan that was how you got connected.
oh yeah. And Dan's how I met Sam way back through the performances at Moto.
Oh, right.
Yes, you might have even been there.
Yeah,
We didn't know.
I was.
The Sam I Am.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep,
Green
I was
eggs.
there for that.
Green
Green
eggs.
eggs and ham.
Yeah.
Yep, I was there for that.
And I performed at one of those with my friend.
Yes.
Anitha. Yep.
Yes, that's right.
And then Paul I met through Dan during that grad school period.
And that was
That was like like 04.
okay,
04,
so
05.
04, 05, right?
04, 05.
Yeah. Wow, the odd years still out there. All right, so what are you most excited about using the space for this year, before the end of this year? And if it's nothing different than what if you're like in a cruise mode with your programming now,
Right.
what are you most excited about to kick it to the next level within the next year or so?
Yeah, I've been working a lot with Paige Brown and with Adam Zanolini, who's the director here, and so we're just trying to, like, put our heads together, try to get some more. It's all about sometimes it's about funding, but because I've been having with Freedom From, like, opening acts, I start to get greedy. I'm like, we started with like 8 dancers, like 10 musicians, and now it's like 32 people, But the nice thing has been like having like opening acts that start for like 30 minutes before it goes into the like chosen sets from the audience. So it's been kind of really fun to kind of like brainstorm who some of those opening act folks could be, and then I'm like, maybe I can get my buddy to do like live art while we're doing the performance. Lewis, that'd be great. So yeah, it's like, how can I just visually expand? Because we did like, before we did the opening act, we had a DJ after set, after like the 6 performances, and then we had DJ dance party afterwards. So yeah, just like how to keep it kind of fresh and kind of fun, but still like multidisciplinary. Yeah, and diverse, and lots of different types of people, gender, all of that. I got to keep it.
It's always been our bag.
Very
multidisciplinary diversity.
Yes,
which is funny how part of the reason why I'm not as active as I am. I do have a regular corporate jerk job, but it's funny how in the corporate world that term is popping up a lot now. In the last 12, 16 months.
It's like been, equity and
DEI,
inclusion.
DEI is, because if it doesn't have a 3-letter acronym, nobody will buy it. Right?
Oh, yeah, no. So, I know all about.
I have to deal with some of that at my office as well too. But yeah, it's interesting. I bring that up because I feel that Elastic has always been flying the banner of diversity since day one, and has always, through not just its own leadership, its own composition of who was in the group at any given time, but also through the art it presents and works with. It's always been, but it's never been something that we wear on our sleeve, right? It's always just been, this is how we do what we do.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. And it's because, again, it was our house, right?
Exactly.
So,
and you want to make it feel comfortable for people that are like, hey, I don't really see myself, will I even feel comfortable there? And that's where I think we've been doing that, like the different types of people that curate here, or different performances that have been opening up to lots of different types. It's like, we just got to keep it, you know.
Opportunity. Keep it welcoming, right?
Yeah, keep it welcoming, so then people aren't like, well, that's really just a place for XYZ
This or
folks.
that, or, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
It's a place for whatever you happen to envision. Right?
Yeah.
What's your vision, right? So,
Right.
definitely. Well, cool. Well, I guess that answers the question.
I think we'll answer the question.